Hello, everyone, and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. So, I'm back for another Have Your Say video.
I lost all hope today.
And in this video, we're going to be going through Drag Race UK Season 7, Episode 4. So today we're going to be recapping the episode, going through the results of the Have Your Say poll, and I'll be talking about some unrelated drama to do with the cast of All Stars 11 potentially being leaked. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Okay, so let's start by recapping this week's episode. So going straight into it, we find out that the maxi challenge for this week is a scripted acting challenge. My favourite.
Liza Minnelli, lies.
Now, this is not much of a secret. I've said this lots of times, but I am a
fat whore.
not a huge fan of the scripted acting challenges on Drag Race in general, just because I feel like they're usually not that great. They're not that funny. The queens can't really do anything if they get a bad script, so it's not necessarily the best judge of whether they're talented or not. And oftentimes I just find them boring. But they seem like they're a staple of Drag Race, so I can see that I think they're here to stay. So let's just get into it. So the queens split into 3 groups, and they're each going to do an episode of a show called Mother Tuckers. So what I'll do is I'll go through each group individually and I will go through the performances in order in which they did them. Okay, so we'll go through the first group, which was episode 1, Lucky Bitches. And that was Bones, Elle Vosk, Page 3, and Select's Addiction. And we'll start with Elle first because she appeared first and she was playing Jilly Copperfield. In terms of Elle, I thought her character probably was the least funny in terms of the lines that she was given from the characters of the scene. Hers was more the serious one in a lot of ways. I don't think she had that much comedy to go with, but I think Elle did a decent job. I think she performed it well. There wasn't a huge amount to go with, so it didn't stand out to me. So I probably would have to give it a just okay. And I feel like maybe with a different part, she could have done a bit better. In terms of the Have Your Say poll, I think you agreed because you said 59.4% for just okay, so almost 60%. Then it was Yay with 23.2%, which I would agree. She was more in the just okay towards Yay category. But then still Nay got 17.4%. Then we had Page 3 as Lotta Rides. I do think that Page 3 had the advantage that her character, I think, was the most interesting and probably the main character of this scene. I think she started off maybe not quite as good, but as it went through, I thought she really leaned into it and she started being a bit more natural. And she did have, I think, the best lines of the scene. And I quite enjoyed, I think she sold them well. So I personally would give it a yay. And again, I think you broadly agreed because you said 46.5% for yay, but then still a decent proportion of 42.6% for just okay. And I would say it was probably about the same. I don't think in general this particular scene was that great. And then 11% of you said nay. And then after that, we had a kind of double act, which was Bones as Fanny Wide and Sassy and Select's Addiction as Muffy Wide and Sassy. I'll start with Bones first. I thought she did okay, but I do feel like both of these characters kind of got lost because they didn't have that much identity in that many lines. They really only said a few lines, whereas Elle and Page 3 had the most amount of lines in the scene. I thought Bones was okay. There's nothing really to say about it, but I thought she did okay, but to me there was just nothing really to go on. And I feel like maybe you felt the same way because 66.5% of you said just okay, so that's the biggest majority by far. Then it was 18.7% for yay, but then not that far behind was nay with 14.8%. And then moving on to Selexa, I thought it was a bit odd that she's known for usually having big boobs and big breastplate, but she didn't have one. She did say that I think she lent them to the other girls, but I was a bit confused as to why she did that and then didn't have one herself. Do they not have breastplates on set that they can use? I was wondering if that was part of her character that Bones had really big boobs, whereas she didn't. But I don't think it really went anywhere. The same as Bones, I feel like Selexa just didn't really have a huge amount to go on. I thought she was fine. She didn't stand out, but she didn't suck either. She was somewhere in the middle just because they barely had any lines. So again, like Bones, I would also just say a just okay. Interestingly, it was a bit different because although just okay did come out on top with 55.5%, that's obviously less than what Bones got, because Celexa also got 33.5% for Nay. Now, I'm not sure she was much worse than Bones. I don't know. They both to me seemed about the same because there was just not really a huge amount to go on. And then she only got 11% for Yay. We also find out that the mystery scene partner who's in every scene is Judge Alan Carr. And we'll get onto that later because there were a few comments about that in Have Your Say poll. Okay, so let's move on to episode 2, which was Tucky Bitches. And that was Bonnie and Clyde, Sally, and Tayris. We'll start with Bonnie first because she was the first to speak and she was playing Lotta Rides. I definitely agree with the judges that I think Bonnie was probably the best actress. She was really committed to the role. I think she really understood the character a bit more than some of the others did. I thought she delivered her lines really well. Again, I don't think her lines were the funniest compared to some other people, but she definitely did a good job, so I would give her a yay. And it looks like you agreed, as you always do, because I'm always right.
Is this for real?
With 78.7% of you voting for yay, so that is by far the majority, 16.8% for just okay, and then only 4.5% for nay. Then we had Tayris Mongardi as Jilly Copperfield. I do think that Tayris maybe could have pushed this a bit further than she did. I don't think she quite found the humor in some of the lines that she had. She also maybe wasn't quite as much of a natural actress as some of the others were. So I think she did a decent job. It wasn't bad, but I do think she had a less funny part than Bonnie did. So I probably would give it a just okay, because I don't think it was bad, but it wasn't great either. In the Have Your Say poll, you said 61.9% for just okay, so that seems the majority of you. 23.2% for yay, and then 14.8% for nay. And then finally in this group, we had Sally TM as Tony Balls in Hand. Also, can I say, Balls in Hand is such a funny name. I love it. I guess it's a bit like Hancock, which is a real name. I think that's really funny, and I thought that was actually quite a good little play on words. Sally was such an interesting one to me because I do think I agree with the judges that the accent that she did was awful and it did make it quite difficult to understand what she was saying. So I do think some of the judges laughing, I don't know if they were laughing that much or whether they just played the laughing track in the background to make it sound funnier than it was. I did miss some of the jokes. It's only when I was listening really intently or with the subtitles that I got some of the jokes. So in that sense, I don't think Sally did the best job. But I will say, I thought her physical comedy was actually really good. Like the bits where she was kind of like licking her lips like a dirty old man. That was genuinely funny, and it probably did make me laugh the most of anyone in this scene just because it was so absurd. So I was almost laughing because it was so bad that it turned the corner to good again. But then how do you judge that? Is it a yay because it was funny, or is it a nay because she didn't do the best job? Overall, I found her to be one of the most entertaining, so although she wasn't very good at the actual acting, the fact that it was so bad made me laugh. So I guess I'd have to give it a yay, I guess. Maybe a just okay, because it wasn't necessarily deliberate, but she did make me laugh. And interestingly, it looks like you're also very split on it because the Have Your Say poll was pretty much almost a third split for all of them. So yay did come out on top with 38.7%. Then it was just okay with 33.5%, but then nay got 27.7%. Okay, moving on to the final group, which was episode 3 called Mucky Bitches. And that was Catherine Feelings, Chaiti Grande, and Nyan Bella. So we'll start with Catherine first, and she was playing Lotta Rides. I think from this scene, Catherine was my favourite of this one. She understood the character well. I think she performed it well. Again, I don't think her lines were the funniest. Some of the double entendres that she made, like when she was doing the things about, you know, rubbing his so-and-so, whatever the words were. Obviously, there was lots of innuendos like there often are in these slightly smutty books. And the bit where she was stroking the helmet, I thought that was funny. So to me, she sold it the most. So I think I would give her a yay, but I don't think it was a sort of smash hit. I think it was a yay, but just maybe compared to the others, it was a yay. Although it looks like you were more of a fan because you said 66.5% for yay, 23.9% for just okay, and then 9.7% for nay. Then we had Chaiti Grande as Jilly Copperfield. I did agree with the judges that I didn't quite understand why Chai was doing this kind of like really drawing out the name and taking a long time. It wasn't really very funny. I did wonder if that was something that they decided to do or whether they were told to do it because it did seem a bit random. Anyway, I do really like Chai and I really wanted her to do well, but I do think she was kind of a bit wooden in this particular scene. But I will say in her defense that, first of all, if you're in a group that only has 3 people rather than 4, I feel like you're probably going to be in the spotlight a little bit more. Some of the other people in the other groups, like for example, Selexa and Bones, they just kind of faded into the background, so we didn't have a chance to think that they were not very good. Whereas with Chai, I feel like because she was on screen pretty much the entire time, it's a good thing, but it also can be a bad thing if you're not 100% selling it because people will remember it more. So I do remember her not being that great, unfortunately. I think she was really trying, but she was just a little bit wooden and wasn't quite selling it the way I thought she could. I did think that at the end, as they said, when she popped up from behind the hay, she was a lot funnier. I kind of wish she had done that the whole time. So unfortunately, I think I would have to give this a just okay, maybe even leaning towards a nay, because I just don't think she pushed it as much as she could have done. In terms of the Have Your Say poll, you said 60.6% for just okay, but then surprisingly, to me at least, you said yay, 21.9 is the next one. I think I would have said it more towards just okay to nay personally, and then nay got 17.4%. And then finally, we had Nyan Bella as Clip Clop. This is obviously a role that could be one of those, as they said, you come on, you do your couple of lines and you can smash it. Unfortunately, I just don't think Nyan Bella did. I do think it was probably my least favorite of the performances just because I just don't think the jokes really landed as much as they could have done. And I don't think Nyan Bella has much experience in acting, if at all. And I'm sure it's very easy to say, oh, this was not good. And in person, it's probably a really difficult to do. I also would suck at this challenge.
You suck at everything.
But I do think it could have been pushed a little bit further. And I think some of the jokes were a little bit lost because of the delivery. So unfortunately, I think I'd have to give Nyan Bella probably a nay. And no, I'm not saying nay as in a horse. I am saying the Have Your Say poll. But maybe I'd also give her a nay / a just okay. In the Have Your Say poll, though, you did say 52.3% for nay, so the majority was nay. Then it was 37.4%, and I think I would agree it's somewhere between nay and just okay. And then yay was 10.3%. Okay, and then for question 2, I asked which of the scenes was the funniest overall, and you said episode 2 got 47.4%, then it was episode 3 with 30.5%, and then episode 1 with 22.1%. Okay, so let's move on to the runway for this week, and the category was Ab Fab, as in the TV show Absolutely Fabulous, A Night of 1,000 Sweetie Darlings. Now, don't shoot me.
Cue the sniper.
But I will just say, I do know what Ab Fab or Absolutely Fabulous is. For anyone that doesn't know, it's a TV show. It's a comedy show from like the 90s. And the Sweetie Darling is just something they say. It's these two sort of older women who work in fashion and they're always like drinking and smoking and that kind of thing. And they always call each other Sweetie Darling. I have watched Ab Fab and it's obviously a massive TV show. It's huge in the UK and outside. It's just one of those shows that I watched a long time ago, probably when I was a child when it first came out, and I don't think I've watched it since then as an adult, so I'll be honest, I didn't really get a lot of the references because it's just not a show I'm super familiar with. Okay, so first up we had Bones. Now obviously this was a cigarette and it's obviously more of the Patsy character style with the hair and everything. I did really enjoy this look. I definitely got the reference straight away. We all know that what Patsy looks like. We all know the kind of the big hair, the smoking constantly. So I definitely got this reference. I also thought it was quite an imaginative look to dress as a cigarette or fag, as we call them in the UK. And no, that doesn't mean what you think it is. It is slang for a cigarette. So I think I would definitely give this a yay. Interestingly, you were a bit more split than I thought you might be. You said 51% for yay, but then it was 37.4% for just okay. So I guess maybe you didn't like it as much as I did. And then 11.6 for nay. After that, we had page 3. I did enjoy this look. I think when she first came out, obviously I got it was like skiing and things. Again, maybe there's a reference to the show that I wasn't getting. It was a little bit more on the simple side though, and we know Paige does like to show skin and everything, but it was, again, a little bit of a simpler look. But then when she pulled the hood up and it had all the cigarettes behind it, I thought that was a really imaginative, interesting way of showcasing that. So that did take it for me from a completely just okay to maybe it could even be a yay, but I'm probably going to go more in the just okay category. Again, it looks like you did not agree because you voted more for the yay category, 52.9%, but then just okay still got a decent amount with 38.7, and then nay got 8.4. After that, we had El Vosk. I did enjoy this look in the sense of like the glasses hanging down, and it was very kind of, I assume it was supposed to be the Adina character. I did like it. I do think it's maybe slightly more on the simple side compared to what we've seen from Elle before, but it was fine, I guess. I almost would have given it a yay, but when I looked, I was like, actually, it is just pretty much a kind of tunic type of dress with a pattern on it and these big glasses. So it was quite simple, but done pretty well. And then she did have the patsy on the back as well. But again, it did kind of look a little bit like just plain dress with a print on it, so I probably would give it a just okay. And it looks like you agreed, although it is quite split, so it was 44.5% for just okay, yay got 31.6, but then nay got almost a quarter with 23.9, so this is probably one of the most split between all three. After that, we had Select's Addiction. I do agree with the judges that this was very simple for the category. It definitely did look ab fab, and I probably would have got the reference, but it didn't scream ab fab. It kind of just looked a little bit like a look that she probably already owned, and she just kind of made it a bit more ab fabby, if you can say that.
I will kill you.
I think it fit her well. The colors were nice. I think she presented it well. I don't think it's the most imaginative though, so I probably would give it a just okay. But I certainly don't think it was as bad as the judges were making out. And in the Have Your Say poll, you voted 52.3% for just okay, so the majority. 31% for nay though, so that was the second most, so I guess it was more you didn't like it as much, and then 16.8% for yay. After that, we had Teiris Mongardi. Now, to me, this didn't really scream ab fab, but again, I don't know the show that well, so maybe there is a reference that I'm missing or something. It just didn't immediately scream ab fab to me. I thought the look was cute though. It's a nice color. I like the look on her. I think the hair was nice. Maybe again, if I knew more about ab fab, I would get this look. Personally, I probably, just because I didn't get the reference, I would give it a just okay. But maybe if I can find the reference somewhere, I might be persuaded to give higher because it's a nice look. In terms of the Have Your Say poll, it looks like you agreed though, so maybe there isn't a reference, or maybe you're also just uneducated like I am. Which is just okay, 56.8%, yay, 22.6%, and then nay with 20.6%. After that, we had Sally TM. When she first came out, I thought this was a cool look, but it was only when she explained that this is kind of a take on these jumpers or sweaters with these colors on them. So I think it was an interesting way of doing it. Again, it didn't scream ab fab, but then I guess if every single person did the exact same thing, it would be boring. So it is interesting that she went outside of the box. It is a cool look, though. It's very much in her wheelhouse. She has done this sort of thing a few times now. But I thought it was interesting enough. So I probably would give it a just okay, but I could be convinced for a yay. In the Have Your Say poll, though, you did give it 58.7% for yay, so you obviously seem to like it, 28.4% for just okay, and then 12.9% for nay. Next up, we had Bonnie and Clyde. I'll be honest, I didn't really know this particular reference, but I do feel like I must have watched this clip at some point.
That's gorgeous, beautiful. Say Thursday. Thursday? Yeah, that's lovely, isn't it?
But I don't know, it's a fine look. I guess if it's recreating a look from the show, it's fine, but it did look very simple compared to some of the others. I don't know how you would elevate it, though, if it's a reference to something. I think I'd give it a just okay, because it's not the most fabulous or ab-fabulous outfit in the world, but it's okay. And I think if it's a reference to something, you do have to expect that it has to sort of look like the original. In the Have Your Say poll, you said 63.2% for yay, 24.5% for just okay, and then 12.3% for nay. After that, we had Chai Tea Grande. I really enjoyed this look. I really liked the way she did it. It was a very innovative way to come out as the bag and then get out of it and you're in the jewelry, which is a reference to the show. I really enjoyed that. And when she stepped out of the outfit, I thought the very bejeweled bathing suit, bikini, whatever, was very pretty. She looked really nice. So I think I would definitely give it a yay. In terms of the Have Your Say poll, you said 65.2% for yay, 27.7% for just okay, and then 7.1% for nay. After that, we had Nyan Bella. I thought it was very smart for her to come out as the sappy character because no one else really did that. I will agree with the judges that maybe she did play it a little bit too sad. Although Sappy is kind of a sad character, she's also got other parts to her personality. But I guess for the presentation, she was just trying to do something a little bit different. But I think it was a smart decision. I think this was actually a pretty nice look. So I personally would give this a yay. It seems like you were a bit more split though, because you said 43.9% for yay, but then 36.8% for just okay. So still a pretty decent proportion. And then 19.4% for nay. And then finally we had Catherine Feelings. Now I do think that the presentation completely sold this look. The look itself is questionable, but she is doing a reference to the Adina character who also had some questionable fashion with lots of clashing patterns. But I think to me, although the outfit is very simple and not that great, I think her physicality and the way she sold it, she really did look like Adina, and her mannerisms and the jitteriness, she really sold it for me. So I think that's why I probably, even though the look is not the best, I would give it a yay because I would have immediately known what it was. And I think you do have to give points for that because that is the category of the runway. And again, in the Have Your Say poll, it was very split in a lot of ways though, because it was yay, 50.3%, so pretty much just down the middle, yay. But then between nay and just okay, it was very split. So just okay did come out on top with 25.8%, but then nay almost got just as much with 23.9%. So we find out that the winner of this week's episode is Bonnie and Clyde. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, do you agree with the winner? And you said 75.5% for yes, and then 24.5% for no. So it's pretty much a 3/4 yes, a quarter no. And of that quarter of you that did say no, I said, who do you think should have won instead? And you said Catherine Feelings 44.7%, Page 3 15.8%, and interestingly, Nyan Bella got 13.2%, even though she was in the bottom two. And then on the flip side, we find out that the bottom two are Select's Addiction and Nyan Bella. I then asked you, do you agree with the bottom two? And interestingly, it was very split, but no did come out on top with 54.2%, although yes wasn't that far behind with 45.8%. So of that almost half of you that did not agree, I said, who do you think should have been the bottom two? And I made you select two names. And Nyan Bella came out on top with 46.4%. But then the person who came out after that was Select's Addiction. So that is literally the result of the thing. So I'm not sure quite why people voted this way. So let's just ignore that. And then it was Chai Tea Grande third with 28.6%. So I'm wondering whether the people who said no maybe voted Nyan Bella and Chai Tea Grande instead of Selexa. But Sally TM also came in third with 28.6%, which was the same as Chai Tea Grande. So maybe people also thought that Sally should have been in the bottom as well. Let me know in the comments though, because this was kind of a bit of a mess of a vote. So Nyan Bella and Selexa then lip synced the song Pearls by Jessie Ware. And we find out that Select's Addiction wins the lip sync, so she is safe to slay another day. And unfortunately, Nyan Bella is told to sashay away. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, who do you think won the lip sync? And again, this was very split. It was almost 50-50. Technically, Select's Addiction did come out on top with 51%, but then Nyan Bella got 49%, so it was only a few votes in it. I do agree, I don't think this was the best lip sync. I do think that Select's Addiction seemed like she was very stiff. I wonder if it's because she was wearing the high shoes and the tight outfit. I do think that Nyan Bella was probably doing the moves and capturing the vibe of the song a bit more, but to me, the fact that she clearly did not know the words, that has to count for something, because we all know that that is an important part of the lip sync. If you can't sync your lips, then it's probably not going to work. And then when her shoes came off, I just thought, yeah, that's got to be a thing, because RuPaul hates it when people's shoes come off. So I do ultimately agree that Selexa won, but I do think it was more that Nyan Bella lost rather than that Selexa won. And then finally, the last two questions was question 7, which queen do you think will win the season? And as has become tradition, Bones came out on top with 49.7%, Then it was Catherine Feelings with 12.3, and then Elle Vosk and Page 3 were not that far behind with 11% and 10.3% respectively. Then question 8 was then who do you want to win, which I think is a slightly more interesting question. Bones came out on top again with 23.9%, but obviously that's much less than the previous question. Then Bonnie and Clyde came out second with 18.1, interestingly. And then Page 3 and Sally TM came in joint third with 14.8%. So let's move on to the comments for this week. And we'll start with my Patreon comments. And my Patreon Jessica brought up something that a few people brought up, which was every time I saw Alan Carr in his costume, I could only think about Victoria Scone as the drag king on Canada versus the World. Now, to me, I feel like this was such a similar vibe because this is exactly what I thought. Like the second he came out, that I just instantly thought of Victoria Scone. This can't just be a coincidence. I assume this must be a thing. So I did wonder why they didn't just have Victoria come on. I did also feel a little bit sorry for Alan because he did a good job, but I do feel like they built it up like, who's the mystery scene partner? And then it was just Alan. I do feel like it was a bit sort of like, okay. So that's not Alan's fault, but I don't know why they didn't just bring in someone else, or they just shouldn't have made such a big deal out of it, because I was really expecting it to be some big gag, and then it kind of wasn't. But I do think Alan was actually quite good in the role. My Patreon Debs said, it's a shame Nyan Bella went today. She wasn't overly polished, but she had heaps of charisma and was really entertaining. I really wish they would invest more in casting more queens of colour. We never have many, and this is not a true reflection of British drag. And then moving on to the Have Your Say poll comments, there were a lot of comments about Nyan Bella saying, so sad to see her go home. I love her. I'm so sad to see her go. This was such a bad challenge. I was having such a hard time following, to be honest. And someone else said, Nyan Bella won this lip sync for me, but I do fear it was her time to go. And is it just me, or did the editing seem really off? Like everything felt so rushed. Now, I did see that Nyan Bella did an interview where she basically commented saying that it was very interesting that they didn't really show her much in the edit of the lip sync, but she also did say that she didn't know the words, so I wonder if it was also kind of to do her a slight kindness as well, because I picked up that she didn't know the words, so I'm sure a lot of other people did. But I was very sad to see Nyan Bella go home. Also, thank you so much to all of the amazing, lovely comments, and they're so supportive. I really do appreciate them. I try and read all the comments, and I can't show all of them, but here are just a few that really made me smile, so thank you very much. I do appreciate them. And finally, we're going to move on to a little bit of unrelated light tea to do with the cast of All Stars 11 being potentially leaked. Just to make it clear, we will be talking about the potential cast for the season, so just be aware that this section of the video may contain some spoilers about the cast. So, as I'm sure you know, whenever there's an upcoming season, especially an All-Stars season, there are very often rumoured cast lists published on sites like Reddit and Wikipedia. Although these lists are only rumours, they often turn out to be pretty accurate because people track which queens are inactive on social medias during which times, so they can usually pretty accurately predict the cast of an upcoming season. Well, it seems that this has happened for All Stars 11, but on top of that, a surprising source may have also done the same thing. So a user named MB contacted me on Twitter and mentioned that IMDb seemed to have leaked part of the cast for All Stars 11. I went on to IMDb for myself and had a look at the entry for the upcoming All Stars 11 season, and in the listing for episode 1, it does list several queens. These queens are Akira C. Davenport, Dawn, Morphine Love Dion, Selena S. Titties, Silky Nutmeg Ganache, Crystal Method, Osmond Vivacious, known as Vivacious, as well as Thomas White, which is Morgan McMichaels. The reason I find this interesting is because I've often seen the rumoured cast lists on sites like Reddit or Wikipedia, but those sites are usually run by fans, so it's kind of to be expected that there may be spoilers because those sites aren't really regulated as much. However, this is the first time I've personally seen this sort of thing happen on IMDb, which usually tends to be a bit more official. I was curious about this though, so I did a bit of research and I found an article in the IMDb help section which talks about how to add filmography credits. It says that anyone with a free IMDb account can add the credits, such as the cast or crew. However, it says you also may need to provide evidence to support this so it can be verified. Now, I have no idea how much of this is actually regulated, so perhaps it is quite easy to just add a cast list without any evidence. But I just thought that this was sort of interesting. And if there is anyone watching this that knows how IMDb works, please let us know in the comments. Also, one other aspect of this I found interesting is that on IMDb, there were only 8 queens listed on the cast list, whereas usually a full cast is around 16 to 18 queens. So I went onto the Drag Race wiki, which is where the rumoured cast lists are often posted, and there is a full cast list for All Stars 11 on there, which even includes which brackets the queens are in. So it appears that they will be doing the bracket system the same as All Stars 10. So in terms of the full list, for bracket 1, it's Akira C. Davenport from seasons 11 and All Stars 6, Dawn from season 16, Lucky Stars from season 17, Morgan McMichaels from seasons 2 and All Stars 3, Morphine Love Dion from season 16, and Mystique Summers from season 2. Then for bracket 2, it's April Carry-On from season 6, Aura Mayari from season 15, Crystal Method from season 12, Selena S. Titties from season 15, Silky Nutmeg Ganache from seasons 11, All Star 6, and Canada vs. the World 1, as well as Vivacious from season 6. Then for bracket 3, it's Hershey LeCourgette from season 16, Jasmine Kennedy from season 14, Joey J from season 13, Kennedy Davenport from seasons 7, All Stars 3, and Canada vs. the World 2, Sam Starr from season 17, and Sugar Cane from season 11. So as you can see, there were multiple queens who are listed on the Drag Race wiki, but they're not listed on IMDb. I'm not sure if that means anything, but I just thought this was potentially interesting. This sort of thing has happened in the past though as well. If you remember, back when season 17 was airing, on the official Wikipedia page for season 17, someone updated the elimination track record and said that Lucky Stars was going to be eliminated before the episode even aired. And although these are only rumours, if you look back on them, they do tend to be pretty accurate. So we'll have to wait and see if this cast list for All Stars 11 does turn out to be true. But let me know in the comments if you believe this cast list is accurate because it was on IMDb, and if it is accurate, which queens are you most excited to see? So there you go, there was the Have Your Say video for RuPaul's Drag Race UK Season 7, Episode 4. Let me know in the comments what you think of scripted acting challenges, and let me know how this season lives up to your expectations and how does it compare to previous Drag Race UK seasons. If you'd like to have your comment featured in the Have Your Say poll, have access to the exclusive Patreon chat, early access to my videos, priority when submitting interview questions, and much, much more, please consider checking out my Patreon. It's a cheap way of supporting the channel and it really does make a massive difference. And I'll leave a link to my Patreon in the description. I'd also like to say thank you so much to my amazing Patreon members. I appreciate you now more than ever, especially now that Drag Race US and All Stars is on a bit of a hiatus until the next season comes on. This is often the time when I don't have as much content to talk about. So honestly, having your support on Patreon makes a massive difference and allows me to keep making content even in this off period. So thank you all so much. Please make sure you like and comment on this video to help boost it in the algorithm and promote it to more people. And of course, please make sure you smash that subscribe button. I'd love to get more subscribers and I can only do that with your help. So please hit that subscribe button if it's the last thing you ever do. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you'll join me in the future for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. Thank you so much. Bye.